So, picture this, a world without a central government. How on earth do you build a stable society? Well, today we're diving into the fascinating answer that feudal Japan came up with. And let me tell you, it's a system built not on laws, but on something much deeper: loyalty, honor, and duty.
Everything, and I mean everything we're about to talk about comes back to these three little words: honor, duty, power. These weren't just some nice ideas people talked about. Nope. They were the actual gears of the entire society, the very pillars that held up a whole nation for centuries. And that right there is the big question, isn't it? It really gets to the heart of what made feudal Japan so completely unique. This was a place where personal bonds and your word meant more than any written law. The whole fabric of government was literally woven from cultural expectations. So let's break down how this actually played out. Okay, so how does a society even get to a place like this? Well, it all started with a huge problem. You had a massive power vacuum right at the very top, and it was threatening to tear the entire country apart.
And here's the crucial detail: the emperor, well, he was this deeply respected, almost divine spiritual figure. But, and this is a big but, he had zero military muscle to enforce his will. No army to call his own. This left Japan with no real central authority to keep the peace, creating a seriously dangerous power vacuum.
As you can imagine, that power vacuum had a massive ripple effect. With the emperor's authority pretty much gone, local landowners were forced to take matters into their own hands. They started raising their own private armies just to protect themselves. This free-for-all, this chaotic environment, it totally set the stage for a new kind of leader to rise up, someone who could provide the security that nobody else could. And that leader, that was the shogun. Now, this wasn't just some other general. The shogun became the de facto, the real ruler of Japan. He commanded the armies, he made all the big political calls, and he did it all while letting the emperor keep his symbolic spiritual title. This was the solution to the chaos. So, the shogun's big idea was to build a brand new social structure. Think of it like a pyramid of power, but one that was built entirely on personal loyalty and mutual obligation. And here it is, that pyramid of power. Way at the top, you've got the emperor, who's still revered, and then the shogun, who holds all the real power. The shogun grants huge chunks of land to these powerful regional lords called daimyo. In return, the daimyo pledge their absolute loyalty and their armies to the shogun. And who are in those armies? The samurai, an elite warrior class loyal to their specific daimyo. And holding the whole thing up from the bottom, the peasants, whose labor fed everyone. You know, this setup was way more than just a simple hierarchy. It was this intricate web where everyone depended on everyone else. The samurai protected the daimyo answered to the shogun, and the peasants fed them all. It created this delicate but surprisingly effective balance of power that finally brought stability back to the country. Okay, but here's where things get really fascinating. The part that makes Japanese feudalism so different. This whole system wasn't just held together by swords and armies. It was powered by something much stronger: deeply held cultural values.
Just look at this comparison to European feudalism. It says it all. In Europe, it was all about legal contracts, right? Written down, transactional. But in Japan, the whole system was held together by personal honor and a sense of duty. Your word was your bond, and that bond was for life. This meant that the fear of bringing shame upon yourself was often a way bigger motivator than the fear of any legal punishment.
And the samurai? They were the living, breathing embodiment of these values. Their entire life was guided by this incredibly strict code. For a samurai, loyalty wasn't a choice. It was their entire purpose. And honor wasn't just a personal thing. If you lost your honor, it reflected badly on your family, your ancestors, and your lord. This cultural code, this way of life, was the glue that held the entire system together.
And this, right here, is probably the single most important idea to take away from all this. In feudal Japan, the values of honor, duty, and loyalty didn't just support the political system, they were the system. The government worked precisely because the culture demanded that it work.
So what happened to this whole system? Well, the age of the shoguns and samurai did eventually end, of course, but its influence? Oh, that is far from gone. Believe it or not, the legacy of feudal Japan is still very much alive. You can see echoes of these ideas, this emphasis on discipline, group harmony, and a deep sense of responsibility in modern Japanese corporate culture, in the education system, and even in everyday social interactions.
If there's one profound lesson we can learn from the story of feudal Japan, it's this. The true foundation of any government isn't just its laws or its institutions, it's the shared values of the people. It turns out, culture can be the most powerful political force there is. Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If honor and duty were the invisible architecture of power in feudal Japan, what are the unspoken values, the unwritten cultural codes that shape how power really works in our own world today? It's something to think about.